everybody! So when I was at the roast show, I took a video of Evon Nather from HBN Nurseries. I think that's what it is. She was doing a free demonstration of hair painting. She's amazing at hair painting and amazing at painting. And her husband said that I could take this video. And hopefully it's okay if I upload it because a lot of people were asking for it. So anyways, here it is. Finally got it uploaded. Sorry it took me so long. And I didn't get the first part of it and the last part of it, but I got the whole middle of it. So yeah, enjoy.
I do have to say how very humbling it is that you all are interested enough to watch. Nobody cares when I'm sitting in my kitchen at home.
They just don't appreciate you the way we do.
Yeah, we do.
I go to your kitchen.
Definitely.
You go to my kitchen. So you can see how thick my paint is that I'm working with. I want you to see that. Because I think that's so important when you're mixing paints. So that really, pass that around and everybody can see that.
Yeah.
Is there any thinner than that? No. Tiny.
It's the Mona Lisa thinner.
That's all I've ever used. That's what I started with, and I haven't tried it. Oh, I finally tried a little bit of Gambasol for the flesh tones.
Yeah.
But that's it.
Yeah, probably more paint than anybody's, thicker than maybe many of you have used. That's a big deal. I had just a little bit in my bowl, maybe only a quarter full. Yeah. Oh, I can use just paint. Oh yeah. Because really what I'm doing is I'm gonna put that on my doll, and then I'm gonna clear my brush, and I'm gonna move that paint around on my doll. If I'm constantly adding, it's a different movement, and I think it creates a different type of hair if I'm constantly going from paint to doll, trying to map this pattern. If I set the hair down first and then I grow it out, you'll see that it creates that dynamic that you see on most of my dolls where it's darker in one area and lighter in another. It means I started here and I spread it to here.
I have a question. That's enough paint to start with?
Oh yeah. Another thing is I always hold my baby facing me or head down.
Gotcha.
I do not ever paint a doll like this. Never. Or put it in a bowl, or no, I hold it, I move it. I want you to pay attention to my stroke and my hand. Notice that I very much do the same stroke, but I move my doll. I move the head. So I'm going to start with those those 4 points that I discussed in my book. Okay, so that's it. That's that point.
That's it?
That's that point.
That's cool.
There's that. There's that.
Wow.
That's it. That side. Do the same to the other. Usually I hold the doll upside down. Reason is you'll notice that a lot of people with painted hair, they cut off right above the ear.
Yeah.
Because when you're holding the baby like this, you cannot go any farther. But when you hold the baby like this,
You mean like this?
there you go. When you hold the baby like this, you can tuck your brush up under that ear. I'm not worried about getting paint on my ear. I can take that off. I'm trying to get up into that space, and I can do that if I hold the baby upside down. And all I'm making is kind of an X that kind of fans out. So if all I'm making is a shape, there's no genius to it. Just get it up there and move it out. So there's the 3 points. Now we'll do the 4. Just kind of a sloppy X. I'm not concerned with the bottom. I'm not going to get caught up in details. Okay, so I've got those points.
Hold on. Catch up with you.
So now I'm going to give myself a little bit of thinner so I can clear off my brush a little bit.
Got some on the ear already.
Yeah, it's all right. So what I'm going to do now is start moving out those sections, and I'm going to get quiet because I have to kind of concentrate, but I'm going to move out these sections, and you're going to see where I'm connecting the dots. I'm going to connect all those 4 points. Pay attention to where I'm putting my brush, if I'm blotting my brush before it hits my doll, and how I'm moving it. So I'm fanning this out, bringing it forward, fanning it out. I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to fan this out. A simple way to get these to connect in the back behind the ear, I can round this and tuck it down. So now it's going in the same direction as that X is going to meet, that same curve. So I can line that out. I can map that out. Same on the other side, I can bring that back behind the ear, and then I can map that out. And all I'm doing is fanning this out. Now this doll has had a seal on it, so it's been sealed, and so when you texture and seal it, it's got a little bit of a drag on it, so I'm having to push a little bit harder.
So all you're doing is using the thinner to drag the paint around.
That's correct.
Do you always seal your skin before you do the hair?
That's why I was saying with this one it's a little different. I'm having to kind of pull a little harder because that texture kind of works against you. It pulls at your paint, so it doesn't move quite as freely. Now in the back, you've got those two pieces that are moving forward. A good way to connect the dots with those is to swing this out. Once you've swung that out, you can start to build this up this direction to kind of begin to meet those. Do you see that? How you kind of fan that out. So much is in fanning it out, because if you get stuck and you're looking just up here trying to figure out how to get it down here, flip it over and look at it down here and figure out how to get it up there. And it's one of these angles, it'll make sense. If it doesn't, set it down and walk away. I'm just following in the tracks of the direction of the 4 points that I've already settled on. So then all we're doing is just connecting the dots. As you start to bring these forward, you'll notice that this is just really wet. It kind of establishes your brow line.
Oh, I see.
It just kind of naturally happens. You can go in and throw some brows on too.
Throw some brows on. See how though she says that? Sure.
And if I get a stroke that I don't like, the beauty of Genesis, I can just take it out. You'll see me go back and revisit those points where I initially started if I'm adding more paint, because I like to start at a certain point and drag that paint forward. That's what creates those heavier areas. This baby's head is stuffed, so it's heavy.
She could bake it on stuff to ring on.
What's that?
She could still bake it.
I don't know if she can bake it with the ring on it. She's gonna be in a predicament now.
Take the ring off.
I baked with the ring that survived.
It did.
I don't recommend it.
You barely survived, right? But the ring did.
A little extra to hang on to, though.
Yeah, especially if it's a heavy hair.
That's pretty cool.
And I'm not going for perfection. I'm not going for it to look like it's finished. I just want a pattern that then I can bake and then I can relax and I can play. And I'll show you. There's all kinds of things we can do to play. And I keep revisiting those same spots and building them out and building them out.
So from here, I cannot see any individual hairs. Is that what you're going for, or if I get closer, can I see?
I'm not going for individual hairs, but if you get closer, I guarantee you're going to see where this brush splits, and it does look more like individual hairs. But I can't see individual hairs on your head.
Right.
either.
Yes.
So
that's why I didn't know if it was just how far back. Or
Yeah,
closer. Okay.
and so it's one of those things that where you're going to see more of the individual hairs is kind of where it fades toward the back and toward the front. If you did the whole head in individual hairs, that's where you get those very liney babies because you're focused on individual hairs. But if you play with this brush a bit, you'll see how you can sprawl out this brush and it looks like I put in 60 individual hairs when that's not the case. Yeah. But if you can see that a little bit, how that's spreading.
Oh, okay. Yes.
See how if I were to take a picture of that on a macro lens and put that on eBay, you would be thinking I sat there and used a liner brush and did 60 hairs. Yeah.
Okay.
Now you have a closer look.
Yeah. And again, this isn't my finished product. This is just my pattern. So when I go back, I can play with my liner brush. And I do. And I really love that part.
Cute little baby.
Yeah, he's like, hey, give me hair.
This one's spring hair.
I can push the hair one way and pull it the other. I'm not scared of it. I can make mistakes because I can make them go away. And you can too.
That's what's wrong with me. I'm scared of it.
Yeah. You can't be because so much, I think for me looking back, so much of Reborns was not only my admiration of babies, my awe of the craft, some artists that just inspired me so much, but also when I worked on them, I felt relaxed and it was like yoga for the mind. I mean, we do arts and crafts because it gives us something, and it's not just the finished product, it's in the process. And for me, it like kind of became a form of meditation, especially once you could get over that.
I mean, that's not even finished, and that's
I've got this
pretty.
$150 doll kit and I'm so nervous.
Yes.
That is not relaxation. Your doll is gonna look like you.
That's pretty. You
But
didn't
if you're
finish, that's
relaxed,
pretty, I
you're
think.
going to create something that's more fluid. And I think so much with painted hair is about fluidity and movement. And you can't do that with a stiff, shaky hand. You can if you got 20 people standing around you and your hands shaking. Did you have questions? Oh, well, thank you. So I'm continuing to move this forward and build it. I want you guys to see, I'm going to pass this around because I want you to see how much that paint moves. And when I grab it with the brush, how I can alter it. I just want you to see how it looks a little more smeared out over here, and then you can see where I first laid it down here and what the difference is. I want you to be able to see what I'm seeing. So feel free to pass that around. And because I think if you did this at home, you might freak out.
Yes, I
So
would be.
see it on
I
mine and go,
totally
yeah,
be
this is
freaked
what I
out
want.
right now.
It's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. And I know probably half of you would have said no, and deleted that by now.
Kind of like it. From a distance, it's pretty.
Yeah, well, shading, and ultimately your pattern kind of becomes shading
I'd be happy
and
just to
depth and volume, and then you can build and build and build.
I'm gonna practice.
It might need an oven.
Take it off if you like it.
Were you thinking that? Yeah. Thank you.
How long does it take you to do a completed head?
I definitely do them faster here when people are watching, and they're sloppier when people. 2 or 3 days.
Yes, do you want to
Maybe between around 4 hours each day. You know, because I can't sit down in too long a shot, or you get frustrated. And again, it's about flow and relaxation, and I can't relax for a solid 4 hours. It's a nice thought, but I can't really do it.
It's really fun when that's what you're doing.
Yeah. So I have the book and the brushes in that handy little backpack for $35.
I got a question. Do
I
you
love
make
that
them in
peach comb and pink
layers?
goals.
Do I bake them?
Between layers.
So I put down my pattern first. Once I'm happy with my pattern, I get it off, I get any extra paint off the ears, I go around the edges and trim it up. I make sure that there's no strokes that are out of place that might look good for now but might trap me later. I want freedom to move the hair forward as I want, so sometimes I bake with a pattern that's pretty far back on the head when you guys are probably used to seeing my dolls really hairy. I'll bake it pretty far back because I want to be able to pull it forward on my own terms without messing up the whole head. So really, your pattern is kind of just that shading. It's just something to stick with and give you a rhythm.
She's right. It is heavy.
Do you ever?
That's because it
bake
was
a few
taken
layers?
off the body,
I've
probably.
done that before,
Like
and
this
so
one.
many people have asked about that and like that I'm like, when I go home, I'm like,
Well, I
But
was
I've
going to
done
ask,
that.
like, how do you kind of choose where you're going to put the few hairs? Where do you think they would go?
when I've done it historically, of course, I wait till I'm done. I don't ever try to like match up my hair and paint before I've even started, because you don't know what that color's going to turn out. As you add layers, you wait till you get there, and then you go, okay, let me see if I got any hair that matches this. And if you do, then you might want to root it.
Look at her eyebrows.
And what I do is I'll have like darker areas, like where some of the lines catch and they're much darker. I'll go along the inside of those darker areas so that
You can take
that
it, sorry.
darkness kind of outlines the hair, you know what I'm saying? And I might just gently go along the inside, very, very few hairs, just enough to stick up off of it. But I don't get caught up in over rooting, because eventually you're going to put enough holes in it, you're going to pull that paint up collectively. So I'm very careful, yeah. And you don't texture it. You cannot seal it when you do that, because if you put a seal in there, you're definitely going to pull up paint. Yeah. Because the seal adheres to the paint. And the minute you poke a hole in it, you're pulling up seal, and it's going, let me take the paint with it. And then you've got those, yeah. So since you guys have passed it around, you've seen how it's already air dried a little bit. Oh, I know. All right, we're getting there. Everybody got their workout in on this baby's head because it's heavy.
It is heavy. I reckon it's easier to maneuver if it was empty.
So, you see like that chunk right there? Can you see that shaded chunk right there? This is kind of bothering me. Well, that's the gift of Genesis. Dry sponge. I can go in and I can take a good portion of that out, where now it's just giving me a fine line that I can keep. I can take the edge off of a lot of this with just a dry sponge and dry paint. If I have a dry sponge and wet paint, then I've removed it or I've smudged it. And you still have to be careful when you move around with a sponge, because you can taketh awayeth here and giveth over here. So I'm just getting a little thinner, and then I'm taking it off, because what I really want is the oil. I don't really want the thinner in the fluid volume as much as I just want to have a little oil to catch that paint and spread it.
Ah.
And I'm gonna work on these. You see these big chunky strokes? I'm just gonna try to blend them out back here. And again, I start at those initial spots. And look at how wet that still is. And you've watched me. It doesn't take much. So look at your stuff, and if it's not what you want, don't just think about it being your brush or your stroke, or think about how wet it is. Look at how. See how I can blend those spots and move them around now? And if I don't know how to connect my dots this way, it just doesn't come so natural for my hand to go this direction, I might just flip it. Go, okay, I'll go that way. I got more of a flick in my wrist that direction. Yeah. I kind of do the same stroke. I just change my direction of my head. This is where you see those little fun wisps that you see in my doll hair, where I grab here and then I go. Oh, yeah.
You just have to play with it.
You can play with it. You can play with it. I don't very often go up. I think I have more so. I think you can the more advanced you get. But in my class, I would see a lot of people going backwards. And I can go backwards, I feel like, because I'm controlling how my tip of my brush is hitting that, and I can carry it up if I want to and make it a lighter ending. But for some people, the way that their stroke goes, it stays bulky the whole way. So if you start bulky in the front, you're going to end bulky in the back. It's going to end up being one fine line. The idea is if you're always pulling forward, your natural stroke is to taper. So if you're always coming forward, the forward part of the head will always be those tapered ends, which is what you want.
Makes sense.
If you go backwards, you're going to make it blunt, unless you can control that. But even I struggle to control it at times.
I was thinking it'd be a relief to get that blob dealt with by the ear. What is that, the V stroke you said?
Yeah. Now you see how that came forward? I don't necessarily like it. Well, I don't have to keep it. And once it gets a little too wet, I gotta just go, okay, I'll leave it. Everything's dragging. Gotta move on. Give it time to dry. You got a whole head to work on, not just any one area. Don't get stuck in one area. If you find a spot that you're struggling with, go elsewhere.
That's starting to come up
But
cute.
now I want you to look at and see if
Wow.
you see those fine
I
lines that
can't.
I
No,
was
I
talking
could
about.
from here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was all just with a big brush
Yeah.
Wow.
and moving that paint.
That's cute.
Yeah, because now even from here,
You can see
you
them.
can see an individual, can't you? Or little tiny clones.
And that's what I love about these big brushes. Like buy one, get 60 free. It's fabulous. And everybody will try to replicate you with their little liners like this. I did it, I know. Going back to that first start, that first spot, and loading, reloading.
Normally, would you have painted yet? I mean, baked. That was
Oh,
what I
gotcha.
meant.
I'm all.
You're like, I did. I meant to say baked.
She meant
Um,
cure.
Or has baking time still not come yet?
if you're just learning, I probably would have baked because I'm going back over it now and I'd be scared to wreck my pattern. But I want to show you guys how I can darken it up without having to take the time to bake it. Because once you get a pattern that you love, bake.
You also got to make sure them ears are clean.
Yeah.
Having those ears.
Yeah, I've done that one many times.
How long did it take you to get this good?
10 years.
10 years.
And on the backs of every hair painting artist on eBay, because I studied their work and I learned from it, so it wasn't self-earned.
That's the beauty of art. It's just always something new, always more improvement, always better. There's always somewhere to strive. You know, there's no finish line.
Yeah. And here, I would say in the last several years, for me, because there was a time in my life where I think I was more dependent on my work as an artist financially. And now that I'm not so much anymore, I can enjoy doing different things. Instead of working on dolls, I can spend time teaching. And now I see the reward, like if I sell a book or teach a class and then somebody sends me a picture and I can recognize the spots that I taught and they're happy with it. That is awesome. That's a good feeling.
Do you have any videos or DVDs?
I don't. I should, but I don't.
Okay, somebody upload this, all right?
No, I agree with you. I think a DVD was someone who actually watching.
So you see how I'm kind of creeping that forward? See how thick that line is right there? And I don't like it that much. I can just take the edge off of it. See how I just thinned it out? So now it's gotten really wet. Probably time to stop messing with it. Because once it gets so wet and I keep moving it, I'm going to eventually move it off.
So it's a balancing act, knowing when to stop, move on.
Yeah. So this is probably a time when I bake it, which I will do. But first I'll let it air dry a bit, and then I'll take it off of my ears. And see, I wouldn't leave that chalky chunk there.
Right.
That's like I was saying before, take off the edges to give yourself the freedom to move forward in a better way than that. So I'll remove all that with a dry sponge. If I do it with a wet sponge, it's going to create this perfect line, this barrier where you can tell like hair starts here and stops here.
Right.
You see that a lot, and you see that a lot especially with the dolls that are people doing a lot of lined hair. I mean, there's this blunt line, like how do you stop where it comes down the forehead? You've got these lines. How do you fade them out and let it go from like peach fuzz to hair? And the trick is to let it air dry and then use a dry sponge and just kind of go over the top of it and lighten it up, and you'll see it fade. You'll go from these very perfect lines, these thicker lines, to these lighter, where it's barely peach fuzz. I do, but not that often, because I think blonde, depends on, like I said, I use the same paint color on every doll I do, and you could line them all up and it would look like different colored hair. And it's the quality of the vinyl, it's the color of the vinyl, it's the color of my layering, it's the way that it baked on that day. I could probably buy brand new paints and use the paints that I've had for like 8 years and I might get different colors, and so the hair looks like a different color. And blonde is tricky because it can work on some, and I can use that same paint and put it on another and say it looks white or it looks yellow. Finding that balance, I think, I've found that maybe 2 or 3 times in 10 years, yeah, that I've liked it. I mean, I've done ones that I thought were a little more artsy. There was one that I really liked where if you were to look at that hair, it looked white. But it was a blondie, and it really photographed well, and with the outfits I put with it, it worked. But to me, to hold it and be like, this is a real baby, it wasn't as convincing. Blonde is a tough one.
What about red?
Never played with red.
You haven't done
Nope.
it? Okay.
If I have, it was by accident.
I ain't got the bird.
I don't think I've ever purposely looked for that one. Not anything against redheads.
Burnt amber turn red, believe me.
So I just got that a little wet because I wanted that completely gone.
Is
And
that
I
a
went-
watercolor brush? We were speculating. What kind of brush is that?
This is the Royal Soft Grip, and to be honest, I mean, I love these brushes. These are the brushes that I use, and I find them to be quite quality. But I was finishing a head for somebody the other night, and I left all my brushes here in my book sets, and it was locked up. So I ran over to Michael's, which is right around the corner, and I think I paid $18 for a brush that's just like this, and it was really good. It was